The first time I saw him, I hated him. Or at least, I told myself I did. Because who the hell laughs at a fire scene? I was barely 2 weeks into the job, sweat and smoke still clinging to me like second skin, when this cocky journalist with a battered camera leaned dangerously close to the barricade. His grin was infuriating, reckless, almost taunting. Yet behind that grin, there was something else, something that made my chest tighten in a way no roaring blaze ever had. His name was Ethan, and he was going to be trouble. I had moved from a small town in Ohio to the chaotic streets of Boston with one dream: to be a firefighter who could actually make a difference. Every siren I answered, every door I kicked down, I thought of the people I might save. But Ethan didn't seem to care about safety or rules. He cared about stories, about headlines, about pushing past the danger tape just to capture the truth. He once told me, "People only believe in fire when they see the ashes. Rookie. My job is to show them." I should have walked away. I should have ignored him. But instead, I found myself noticing the little things. How his voice always dipped when he was serious. How his hair curled at the edges when damp from rain. How his smirk was just a mask for something far more fragile. That night, the blaze was worse than anything I'd seen yet. An old apartment building, flames clawing their way into the sky, families screaming for loved ones. My unit rushed in, lungs burning, muscles screaming. And there he was, Ethan, ignoring the cops yelling at him, camera flashing as if no fire could touch him. When I carried a child out, soot smeared across my face. The first thing I saw wasn't the relief of the crowd or the gratitude of the mother. It was him, snapping pictures like he was photographing a miracle. His eyes locked on me like I was the story. For a second, I thought my legs might give out, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of his gaze. Later that night, when the fire was finally under control, I found him leaning against his beat-up car, cigarette dangling carelessly between his fingers. The way the glow of the streetlight hit his face made him look softer, less untouchable. "You're insane," I said, my voice rough from smoke. He smirked. "Takes one to know one. You run into fire for strangers. I run into it for the truth. We're not that different, rookie." The word rookie should have pissed me off. Instead, it felt like an endearment I didn't deserve. We started seeing each other more often, not planned, but inevitable. Fires and accidents had a way of dragging both of us to the same place. He would always find me in the chaos, snapping photos, throwing reckless quips that masked concern. I hated that I started waiting for those moments. Hated that I craved them. One night, after a brutal call where I thought we were going to lose one of our men, I found myself sitting on the steps outside the station, head in my hands. And then, suddenly, there he was, offering me a lukewarm coffee like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You look like hell," he said. "Thanks," I muttered, taking the cup anyway. He sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed. "You know, people always think firefighters are fearless. But I see it in your eyes, rookie. You're terrified. And that's what makes you human." I turned to him, something sharp and raw in my chest. "Why do you keep calling me that, rookie?" He smirked, but his eyes softened. "Because you still believe you can save everyone. I envy that." Silence fell, heavy and charged. For the first time, I let myself really stare. The line of his jaw, the faint scar by his eyebrow, the sadness he never admitted to. And before I could stop myself, I whispered, "You make me crazy, Ethan." His smirk faltered. His gaze dipped to my lips. And for a heartbeat, the world around us, the sirens, the smoke, the chaos disappeared. But he pulled away first. Always reckless in danger, but careful with me. "Don't," he said softly. "You don't want this. Trust me." And just like that, he was gone, leaving me with nothing but the taste of almost on my lips. The days turned into weeks, and the more I tried to bury the pull between us, the stronger it grew. But life doesn't let you hide from what you want, especially not when fate decides to throw you back into the fire. The call came in just after midnight. An abandoned warehouse, engulfed in flames. We didn't know someone was inside until we heard shouting. By the time I kicked down the door, smoke choking the air. I realized with horror who it was. Ethan. He was on the floor, coughing, his camera smashed beside him. "Rookie?" he croaked when he saw me. My heart nearly stopped. I grabbed him, pulling him to his feet, half dragging him toward the exit as the ceiling groaned above us. The fire roared like it wanted to keep him, and for the first time, I understood what true fear was: not the fear of dying, but the fear of losing him. We barely made it out before the building collapsed. Outside, under the glow of red lights, I held him as he trembled, his hands clutching at my turnout coat like he was afraid I'd vanish. "I told you not to come in," he whispered, voice breaking. I pressed my forehead to his, finally letting the truth spill. "And I told you you make me crazy. You think I'd let you burn." For the first time, Ethan didn't run. His lips brushed mine, tentative, trembling, desperate. And when I kissed him back, it felt like the fire was finally behind us, not consuming, but warming, a promise of something worth surviving for. Ethan kissed like a man who had spent too long holding back. His lips trembled against mine, like he wasn't sure if this was survival instinct or confession, but the heat between us burned hotter than any fire I had faced. When we finally broke apart, gasping, his hand lingered at the back of my neck, pulling me just close enough that I couldn't mistake the truth in his eyes. "I shouldn't have let you in there," I said, voice hoarse. He gave a crooked smile, eyes wet with unshed tears. "And I shouldn't keep making you chase me into flames. But here we are." That night, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't scared of the fire anymore. I was scared of how much I wanted him. Days passed, but Ethan was different. Quieter, haunted by how close he had come to being a name on a casualty list instead of a headline. I caught him watching me sometimes, gaze soft, almost apologetic. But whenever I tried to close the distance, he put his walls back up, drowning himself in work, chasing the next big story. Then came the explosion. A chemical plant at the edge of the city went up in flames, and every firefighter in the district was called. I'd never seen anything like it. Columns of fire tearing into the night sky, the air thick with toxic smoke. It wasn't just dangerous, it was suicide. And of course, Ethan was there. I spotted him pushing through the barricade, camera in hand, eyes sharp with determination. Something in me snapped. I stormed over, grabbing his arm harder than I meant to. "Are you insane?" I shouted over the roar of the fire. "You almost died last time." He pulled free, defiant. "This is bigger than me, rookie. People need to know how dangerous this place was. They covered it up. If I don't show the truth..." I cut him off, chest heaving. "And if you die? Who shows your truth then?" For a moment his mask slipped. I saw fear in his eyes, but not for himself. "For me. You think I don't care?" he said, voice breaking. "Every time I see you run in there..." He stopped, swallowing hard, fists trembling. "I can't lose you either." It was the closest thing to a confession I'd ever heard from him, and it was enough to send me running into the fire with his voice echoing in my head. The rescue was brutal. My team fought tooth and nail to control the blaze, pulling injured workers from collapsing structures. At one point, a metal beam came crashing down, nearly pinning me. I heard Ethan scream my name from somewhere beyond the barricade, a sound so raw it tore through the chaos, louder than the flames. Hours later, when it was over, I stumbled out of the wreckage alive but battered. The crowd cheered, but I only saw him, Ethan, pushing past paramedics, his camera forgotten, his face streaked with ash and tears. He didn't care about who was watching. He just threw his arms around me, holding on like he'd never let go. "You're an idiot," he whispered against my chest. "A reckless, stubborn idiot. And you're mine." The words stunned me, as much as the kiss that followed, rough, desperate, unapologetic. In that moment, I didn't care about the crowd, the flashing cameras, the world around us. All I cared about was him, and the way his lips fit against mine like they were always meant to. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Ethan still had his dangerous job, and I still had mine. There were nights we argued, nights we sat in silence too heavy to break, nights when fear almost pushed us apart. But every time we found our way back, because real love wasn't about avoiding the fire. It was about choosing to walk through it together. One quiet evening, months later, we sat on the roof of his apartment, Boston's skyline glittering like 1,000 tiny embers in the distance. Ethan leaned against me, camera resting beside him, his head tucked under my chin. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think the story was always out there, in the flames, in the wreckage, in the chaos. But I was wrong." "Oh yeah," I murmured, stroking his hair. "Where's the story then?" He tilted his face up to mine, a rare smile curving his lips. "Right here. With you." I kissed him, slow and certain, knowing this time he wouldn't pull away. And for the first time since I became a firefighter, I realized I wasn't running into the fire to save strangers anymore. I was running toward a future, one that burned brighter than any blaze. Because sometimes the most dangerous stories aren't the ones you chase. They're the ones that find you. And Ethan, he was mine. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.